Okay, so before we finish our camp out stories for you, we've got one more to tell you about. This kind of starts on Friday night at our campsite. We had a few people that were, coming through four-wheeling and making a lot of noise, big commotion just in the area just across from where we were camping. And they weren't there for very long, maybe about an hour, and everybody else had gone to bed. I stayed up. It was about 12:30 at night. They all left. They drove away. And right after they did, we started hearing some really big calls, or I started hearing, because I was the only one up, from on the other side of this area beyond this other campsite where there were some other people. So I started walking out that way, trying to hear it, and of course these people that were four-wheeling had made their loop and came back around again, so that was kind of the end of that. But the next night, Saturday night, we had a big party of people that turned up just across from us out in this big open area, and there was pallet fires, fireworks, shooting, music, hooting and hollering, the whole works. It was a big commotion. So I kind of figured, well, the same thing would happen again, that when these people settled down, maybe we'd get some more activity. So everybody had gone to bed, and once again I sat there by myself at the fire waiting for these people to go away, and unfortunately I just couldn't stay awake long enough, so I went to bed. And after that, I thought I'd lay there and toss and turn because of all the noise. Unfortunately, I was asleep just like that. But it turns out that those people did leave around 2-ish, and there were other people in our camp who did have an experience, and Sandy was one of them. So she's going to tell us about what happened that night after those people left.
So, Matt and I were in our tent, and we had earplugs in because the noise was so loud. And it didn't even seem to drown out the ATVs and the dirt bikes and Jeeps and whatever was making the loop. And so we got no sleep, absolutely no sleep. So it was somewhere after 2 a.m. when it sounded like the ATVs and such had gone off, and it was starting to quiet down, and so I decided maybe it's safe to take out the earplugs, and so I did, and sometime shortly after that I started hearing something outside the tent, something rustling around, and some wood breaks off in the forest behind us, large stick breaks, and some foot thuds. And so I got out of the bed, out of my little sleeper bag, and went and unzipped the front door. And that woke up Matt. And he's like, "Sandy, what are you doing?" And I said, "Matt, there's somebody out here." And he's like, "Oh my gosh." So I just unzipped, the window part so I could see through the screen and look directly into our kitchen area, which was lit, thinking it might have been maybe one of the partiers lurking around. There was nobody out there. So we left the door part down, the window part down, just so the screen was up. Got back in my little bed. Anyway, and so we just laid there, and Matt, at one point, he had looked at his watch, and he put up 3 fingers for 3 a.m. And we're hearing the stick breaks, we're hearing the foot thuds, we're hearing just movement. And we heard a call. We heard like a really loud sound, like that, a call. And we were just in heaven. We're like, "Oh boy, this is great." And so we kept pointing to each other which way we heard the sounds coming from. At one point, Matt must have been like, I don't know, it was after 3. He's like, "I have to pee so bad." And I'm like, "Well, just go outside the tent. Just go off to the trees right outside the tent." He's like, "Okay, that's great." So he gets up, he unzips the tent, he walks out the tent, and I swear, he just disappears because I can see him because of the backlighting from the kitchen area. He just disappears, and all of a sudden, there's this grunt, like, "Whoo!" And he is back in that tent in a flash. I start laughing because he's trying to zip up the door and hop into the bed as fast as he can. I'm dying. And I'm like, "Man, whatever that was, this tent is not going to save us." We just start laughing. So I don't know what it was that grunted, but it sounded like it was right at the corner of our tent. As we were laying there before he ever got out, I kept smelling this wafting odor of sewer coming through the tent. And it would waft in and dissipate, waft in and dissipate. So I'm like, "Matt, did you fart?" And he's like, "No." And so I'm like, "Don't you smell that?" It was funny. I mean, I don't know what was out there, but whatever it was very entertaining because the footfalls continued for well over an hour to almost an hour and a half. The large stick cracks and breaks were very loud, and the actual forest behind us was a distance. I'm saying, I don't know, 75 feet maybe?
Probably, yeah, about
Yeah.
that.
So, and they were very distinct, even over the sound of the creek, the Huckleberry Creek. So, anyway, so at one point, because he hadn't gone to the bathroom because of the grunt, now we both had to go because we've been laughing so much. So I'm like, let's just go outside the tent, both of us, all right? So we we get up, we go right outside the tent, and tinkle, and then when we're getting back into our bed, we both hear 3 calls, 3 whooping type calls, and one was longer and the other 2 got shorter, I believe, and we just kind of froze. It was so cool. And so then we get back in the tent, and we just continue to listen to these footfalls. Around 4 a.m., there were some campers up above us, and they fired 1 shot into the air, and it was sometime after those 3 calls, those 3 vocals, and the footfalls continued, and the breaking limbs continued, but they evidently did a gunshot, maybe a warning, we thought, to whatever critter was out there to hightail it on out of there. It didn't work. The critter was still there. We must have not gone to sleep until 4:30 that morning, just continuing to listen to all of this action around us.
Wow.
At one point, when we were in our little bed, Matt could cock his head up and kind of look into the light. On the other side of the kitchen area, he saw something move, something dark move across the light. I don't know what it was. But maybe it was whoever grunted at him.
Could
and
be.
Maybe it was doing some of the foot stomps or footfalls. I don't know. But I think that they were maybe intrigued by the partiers, maybe not real happy. I don't know.
Well, definitely attracted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting evening. For not getting any sleep that night, it was the best night ever. Even though I was so annoyed at the ATVs and the motorcycles and the Jeeps and the whatever, it was fantastic night. What a great way to end the camp trip.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And then we found that print the next morning.
Oh, yeah, right back there. Yeah, right back behind where you guys were camped.
Right. Wasn't it 14 inches long, Barb?
Something like that, yeah.
We measured it. So there was a great footprint impression back there.
Wow.
It was fantastic.
Okay, so yeah, there's one other thing I forgot to mention. Before I went to bed, after everybody else had gone and I was sitting there by the campfire just, waiting to see what these people were going to do, if they were going to go away. First I heard one good long whistle kind of off to the right of our camp, and about an hour later there were 2 more good whistles right there. It was almost like maybe they were gathering at the edge of the forest and watching these activities that were in this big area above us there. But after I went to bed and I fell asleep, I never heard a thing, which is really interesting because there's another part of your story there that you should tell us about.
Well, so when Matt and I were out tinkling in the forest next to our tent, when we were getting back into the tent, just before we got back into the tent, Gabby growled. And so I wasn't sure if she had heard us, but then she started barking, growling, bark, growl, bark, growl. And then Penny jumped up and turned her tent light on because we could see her silhouette through the tent. So I think Gabby, when she was barking, growling, woke up Penny.
Now, where was Gabby when she was barking and growling?
I never saw her, and she never came to me, which she normally would.
I leave the tent unzipped so she can come out. Yes, she was actually in the tent with me doing the barking and growling.
Yeah, she never came out because she would come to me if she saw me. So she just started with a growl, and then it started barking, growl, bark, growl, bark, growl. And then we just went right back into the tent, back into the bed.
So even though I left the corner of my tent open, so Gabby can go in and out.
Right.
She chose to put on her show from inside the tent. All the growling and all the barking that I slept through.
She's so brave. She's so brave. She's like, Matt, that's so brave. I should talk, right, Barb?
Yeah.
I'm one of the biggest chickens. I know. I'm much braver when there's other people.
Well, yeah. Power in groups. Safety in numbers.
Yeah. It was quite an experience. That hour and a half was really, it was fun.
Yeah. You guys were so stoked when I got up in the morning. Yeah.
It was like, did anybody else hear this? But I was so glad that he heard it.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
foot thuds, they were stomps, thuds, or something, and there must have been at least a dozen or more of them.
Wow.
Just guessing, because there were a lot.
Well, I think all that noise just brought them from all around that area.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and I really do think I agree with Matt that maybe those campers up above, they were hearing the same thing we were hearing, and they decided to try and chase it off.
That's what the gunshot was
Didn't
for.
work.
Yeah.
We were intimidated because it just continued, and finally around 4:30 we were just exhausted, and then had to get up at 6:30 to get to the airport. So it was like time to call this a night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
What a way to finish it off, huh?
It was great.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing with us.
Absolutely. Can't wait for the next camp out.
Yeah, it's only weeks away.
Y'all should come.
Woohoo!
Woohoo.